The Forgotten Children. The red dust of Theos swirled across the reinforced plasteel windows of Settlement Alpha, the largest of humanity's outposts on this unforgiving world. Captain Alina Reyes stood in the observation dome, her weathered face illuminated by the crimson light of the setting sun. 15 years of leading this colony had etched deep lines around her eyes, but had done nothing to dim the intensity of her gaze. "Status report," she said, not turning from the viewport. Lieutenant Dario Vega, her second in command for nearly a decade, approached with a data tablet. "Shield generators are at 68%, holding against the storm. Hydroponics reports a 12% increase in yield this quarter." He hesitated. "But water recyclers are showing signs of strain. Chen says we have maybe 2 years before critical components fail beyond our capacity to repair." Elena nodded, absorbing the information without visible reaction. 2,000 colonists depended on her decisions. Panic was a luxury she couldn't afford. "And the perimeter sensors?" she asked. "Third alert this month," Dario replied. "Something's scanning us from orbit." Before Elena could respond, the communication panel chimed. "Captain," came the voice of Communications Officer Patel, "we've got an incoming transmission. It's not human." 20 minutes later, Elena stood in the colony's central meeting hall facing a holographic projection of a being that appeared almost human, if humans had iridescent blue skin, 6 fingers on each hand, and eyes that seemed to refract light like polished gemstones. "I am emissary Vexillar of the Caldari Concordance," the being announced, its voice melodic yet somehow clinical. "We have monitored your colony for some time. Your presence on Theos is now a matter of concern." Elena stood straighter. "This planet was unclaimed when we arrived. We've built our home here legally under the Galactic Settlement Protocols." The alien made a gesture that might have been dismissal. "The protocols apply to recognized species with standing. Humanity's status was downgraded to pre-collapse refugee 2 centuries ago. You have no territorial rights in this sector." A murmur ran through the assembled colony leaders. "We've lived here for 3 generations," Elena countered. "And you will be relocated with minimal disruption," Vexillar replied. "The Caldari Concordance requires this world. Our surveys indicate valuable mineral deposits beneath the planet's crust." Elena felt a cold anger building. "And if we refuse, then we will remove you." The alien's tone hadn't changed, as if discussing the weather rather than the displacement of 2,000 humans. "You have 30 standard days to prepare for evacuation." The hologram flickered out, leaving stunned silence in its wake. Chief Engineer Maya Chen was the first to speak. "Where would we even go? The nearest human settlement is 6 light-years away, and they're struggling worse than we are." "We don't go anywhere," Elena said firmly. "This is our home." "You heard the Caldari," Security Chief Ortiz interjected. "We don't have standing. They can do whatever they want to us, and no one in the galaxy will care." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll have to change that." Later that night, Elena sat alone in her quarters, reviewing the colony's limited options. The Caldari were right about one thing. Humanity's fall from prominence had been swift and devastating. The collapse of Earth's ecosystem 3 centuries ago had forced a desperate exodus, scattering humans across dozens of worlds. While some had managed to establish thriving colonies, many more struggled on the margins of galactic society, viewed as primitive refugees by the dominant species. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Dario entered, followed by Maya Chen. "You need to see this," Chen said without preamble, placing a data core on Elena's desk. "We found something while expanding the eastern water cistern." The holographic display showed a deep chamber, clearly artificial, buried beneath the colony. The architecture was unlike anything Elena had seen before. Sleek, almost organic curves of what appeared to be metal, but flowed like liquid. "What is this?" Elena asked. "I don't know," Chen replied. "But it's human in origin. The access panels respond to human DNA. And Captain, it's old. Carbon dating puts it at nearly 1,000 years. Elena frowned. That's impossible. Humanity didn't have interstellar travel until the Exodus, 300 years ago. Apparently, that's what we've been told, Dario said quietly. But this suggests otherwise. Over the next week, Elena led a small team to explore the underground facility. What they discovered shattered everything they thought they knew about human history. The facility wasn't merely a bunker or research station. It was a fully operational outpost of a human civilization far more advanced than their own. "Look at this," Chen said, gesturing to what appeared to be a control center. The technology was unlike anything they'd seen. No visible interfaces, just smooth surfaces that responded to touch and thought. "This makes Caldari tech look primitive." Elena ran her hand over a central console, and the room hummed to life. Holographic displays materialized, showing star maps and what appeared to be a network of similar facilities across the galaxy. "This changes everything," Elena whispered. "If we can understand this technology, we might have a chance against the Caldari," Dario finished. As the deadline for evacuation approached, Elena made a decision that would alter the course of human history. Rather than preparing to leave, she gathered her most trusted advisors to implement a desperate plan. "The facility contains what appears to be a defensive system," she explained, "and communications technology beyond anything we currently possess. If we can activate it, we might be able to reach other human colonies, maybe even find out the truth about our past." "And if it doesn't work?" Ortiz asked. Elena met his gaze steadily. "Then the Caldari remove us anyway. We have nothing to lose." On the 29th day, a Caldari ship entered orbit around Theos. Smaller vessels descended toward the colony, carrying troops to enforce the evacuation order. In the underground facility, Elena stood before the central console, her hand hovering over what they believed to be the activation sequence. "All colonists are in the emergency shelters," Dario reported. "Caldari dropships are 5 minutes out." Elena nodded. "Then we're out of time." She placed her palm on the console. "Let's see if our ancestors left us anything useful." The facility thrummed with sudden energy. Lights flared along previously dormant conduits. Beneath the colony, machinery that had lain dormant for centuries awakened. Above, the approaching Caldari vessels suddenly found themselves targeted by defense systems they hadn't detected. Their sensors registered energy signatures unlike anything in their database. Inside the facility, a holographic figure materialized, a woman in a uniform Elena didn't recognize, but unmistakably human. "Outpost Theos awakened," the figure announced. "Emergency protocols activated, connecting to the network." Elena stepped forward. "What network? Who are you?" The hologram regarded her with an assessing gaze. "I am Commander Emmanuel's, System Guardian for Outpost Theos, and you are the descendants we hoped would someday return." Outside, the sky above Theos lit up with energy discharges as ancient defense systems engaged the Caldari vessels. The message was clear. This planet was protected by technology the Caldari couldn't match. In orbit, Emissary Vexillar watched in disbelief as his ships retreated from weapons that shouldn't exist, not in the hands of primitive human refugees. As his vessel pulled away from Theos, automated systems detected a signal emanating from the planet, a signal that was spreading across subspace frequencies, reaching toward distant stars. The signal carried a simple message, repeating in an ancient human language that had been forgotten for centuries. "We remember. We return. Humanity awakens." The awakening. 3 months after the Caldari retreat from Theos, Elena stood in what they now called the command center, watching as information continued to flow across holographic displays. Commander Wells, or rather, her AI avatar, had become their guide to humanity's forgotten past. "Your ancestors were not refugees," Wells explained. "They were pioneers, part of the first expansion nearly 1,000 years ago." Elena still struggled to reconcile this history with what she'd been taught. But what about the Exodus, Earth's collapse? A tragedy, Yes, but not the beginning of humanity's journey to the stars, Wells replied. By the time Earth's ecosystem failed, human colonies existed on more than 100 worlds across this galactic arm. The Exodus ships were just the final wave, those who had chosen to remain on Earth until the end. Then what happened to all those colonies? Why don't we remember? Wells' expression grew somber. War. A coalition of species feared humanity's rapid expansion and technological advancement. They struck simultaneously across human space, targeting our most advanced worlds first. Earth, distracted by its environmental crisis, couldn't coordinate a defense. So we lost, Dario said from his station. Not exactly, Wells corrected. As defeat seemed inevitable, the High Council enacted the Dormancy Protocol. Our most advanced technology was hidden, our history obscured. Colonial development was deliberately regressed. Humanity appeared to fall. You made us forget what we were, Elena realized. Why? To survive. Wells answered simply. The coalition couldn't risk leaving any advanced human outposts intact, but once we appeared primitive, a scattered, struggling refugee species, we were beneath their concern. The Council buried facilities like this one on dozens of worlds, waiting for the day humans would rediscover their heritage. And triggering the defense system sent out some kind of signal. Chen asked. Wells nodded. A wake-up call. For centuries, dormant facilities have monitored galactic communications, watching for signs that it was safe to reawaken. When you activated this outpost, you triggered the network protocol. Other facilities are now coming online across the galaxy. The implications were staggering. Throughout human space, colonies were discovering hidden bunkers beneath their settlements, awakening to the truth of their history and reclaiming technology their ancestors had hidden centuries before. On a dozen worlds, the pattern repeated. Local authorities arrived to enforce minor regulations or boundary disputes, only to discover humans wielding technology that shouldn't exist. Trade relationships suddenly shifted as human colonies revealed manufacturing capabilities that rivaled the major powers. Starships of ancient but superior design emerged from hidden docks, crewed by humans who weeks before had been considered primitive settlers. 6 months after Theos, representatives from 17 human colonies gathered in the newly constructed meeting hall above the original facility. Elena, as the first to awaken a dormancy site, had been asked to convene this historic assembly. The United Human Alliance is officially formed, she announced to thunderous applause. For the first time in centuries, we stand together as one people. Maya Chen, now Director of Technological Reclamation, gave her report. We've recovered approximately 30% of our ancestral technology. Manufacturing facilities on New Terra and Proxima Colony are producing starships with defensive capabilities that exceed current galactic standards. The knowledge base from Commander Wells and other system guardians has allowed us to advance centuries in mere months. Not everyone in the galaxy welcomed humanity's sudden resurgence. The Keldari Concordance had called an emergency session of the Galactic Council, demanding action against what they termed humanity's deception. Elena and a delegation from the newly formed alliance traveled to the Council's neutral meeting ground, a massive space station orbiting a pulsar at the galaxy's center. As they docked, Elena marveled at how much had changed. 6 months ago, she had been a colonial administrator struggling to maintain water recyclers. Now she represented a unified human government to the galaxy's most powerful species. The council chamber fell silent as the human delegation entered. Elena recognized representatives from a dozen major galactic powers, including the Imperious Vexillar, who now serve as the Keldari's chief diplomat. The council recognizes the human delegation, announced the moderator, a member of the ancient Thesian species. You may present your case. Elena stepped forward. The United Human Alliance thanks the council for this audience. We come not as supplicants, but as equals, reclaiming our rightful place in galactic affairs. Rightful place? Vexillar interrupted. Your species deceived the galaxy. You hid your true capabilities, infiltrated territories under false pretenses. We survived, Elena countered. After your coalition attempted to exterminate us 1,000 years ago, we did what was necessary to preserve our species. A murmur ran through the chamber. These are serious accusations, the moderator noted. The current council has no record of such a conflict. Because the victors obscured it, said a new voice. An elderly Keldari had entered the chamber, distinguished by elaborate markings that signified high academic status. I am historian Kelvos of the Concordance Archives, and I must confirm that what the humans claim is, regrettably, true. The council erupted in shocked discussion as Kelvos approached the central platform. Our ancient records, sealed by tradition but accessible to primary researchers, confirm that our ancestors, along with the Vorex Imperium and Thesian domain, launched what they termed a preventative action against human expansion. The conflict was removed from public history as part of the peace terms. The moderator stared at the historian. Why would you reveal this now? Because truth matters, Kelvos replied simply. And because the humans have already demonstrated they remember. Continued deception serves no purpose. In the days that followed, a new order emerged. The United Human Alliance would be granted full recognition and standing, including restoration of territorial claims from before the ancient conflict. In return, humanity agreed to share aspects of their reclaimed technology, particularly medical and environmental advances that could benefit all species. 1 year after the awakening of Theos, Elena stood on the observation deck of humanity's new flagship, the Renaissance. Below, the red plains of Theos were slowly transforming as terraforming technology restored the environment to a more Earth-like state. Incoming transmission from Alliance headquarters, Dario announced, now captain of the Renaissance. The holographic display showed the Alliance Council chamber, where representatives from over 50 human worlds now gathered regularly. Captain Reyes greeted Council Chair Okafor. The Keldari ambassadors have arrived to discuss the joint research initiative. Will you be joining us? Not today, Elena replied. We've detected unusual energy signatures in the Cygnus sector. Since it borders unclaimed space, I'd like to investigate personally. Okafor nodded. The Renaissance is cleared for exploration. Safe journey, Captain. As the transmission ended, Elena gazed out at the stars. Humanity had reclaimed its heritage, but what mattered now was the future they would build. Set course for the Cygnus sector, she ordered. Let's see what's waiting for us out there. The Renaissance's engines hummed to life as the massive vessel turned toward unexplored space. Humanity had returned from the brink of extinction, transformed itself from a forgotten refugee species into a galactic power in less than a year. But Elena knew their journey was just beginning. Whatever challenges awaited among the stars, humanity would face them united, with the wisdom hard-won through centuries of struggle and survival. They had been broken, scattered, and forced to forget their own greatness, yet they had endured. The galaxy had thought humanity doomed to fade into obscurity. Instead, they had returned stronger than ever before.